It's always a rare pleasure to have Union Minister of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Piyush Goyal on ET Now. Mr. Goyal, you're joining us from Australia. Thank you for joining us. And what a great day to have you on ET Now. The Made in India mission of government has completed 10 years. What started as an idea has now become a real movement.
Nikunj, what a pleasure talking to you on this important day.
Pleasure is all ours, sir. In fact, it's always a rare honor to have you on ET Now. Mr. Goyal, my sincere compliments in the way you really put the blueprint of Made in India, and like I said, what looked like an idea has become a movement now. But where will Made in India move now? Next 10 years, how do you see that evolving? It started with focus on basic manufacturing and then value addition, and now perhaps specialized manufacturing. India now has welcomed capacity to set up semiconductors, defense, railways, manufacturing. Do you think the next wave will be in the manufacturing sector would be from basic to specialized?
Interestingly, Nikunj, you've hit the nail on the head. Just before I came in for your interview, I was at the space agency office at Adelaide, where their startups and our startups were engaged in a very interesting conversation to explore future partnerships. Their team was in India until Sunday, led by the space agency chief, to discuss with our in-space for joint collaborative effort in the space sector. So India today is recognized not just for basic manufacturing. Today we talked with them about critical and emerging technologies, how to exploit the critical minerals and rare earths that Australia is blessed with. What can we do to partner in green steel, which they are very interested in doing? And we had steel company representatives and CEOs as a part of my delegation. Interestingly, small aside, this visit to Australia for the Joint Ministerial Commission in a way centers around the Make in India program, because Australia has almost stopped manufacturing anything. Their automobile industry, they've outsourced, they buy everything from other parts of the world. And our auto exports to Australia grew by 100% ever since we finalized the free trade agreement, the ECTA agreement. So America today is looking up to India to provide that manufacturing base for their innovations, their technologies, to meet their needs at competitive prices. And through the last 3 days of engagements with top businesses in Australia, I had the presidents of both FICCI and CII with me, a first for India, where both our premier chambers at the highest level have gone overseas together to promote the India story. This is a great signal of the times to come. The whole of the government thinking of Prime Minister Modi is now translating to a whole of the industry and a whole of the nation approach, where we are all pitching in and working together for a better future, to create more jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities, to give our startups a better international outreach, and take the economy to greater heights as we work in the Amrit Kal to make India a developed and a prosperous nation, meet the aspirations of 140 crore young and truly empowered Indians.
Well, I'll take the liberty of extending my interview by another 5 minutes more. You spoke about Amrit Kal, and now the average Indian is really enjoying the benefits of the spirit of Amrit Kal, whether it is in manufacturing, stock markets, or even real estate, or even for that matter, in feeling the wealth effect. Mr. Goyal, if I may add for the benefit of our viewers that the Made in India has been a resounding success, but what has not been appreciated is that Made in India has been a resounding success where by and large the world economic growth has been slow, and India has managed to get its exports back on track despite COVID. So do you think that is something which is underappreciated, needs to be appreciated, that we are growing despite global challenges?
Absolutely. Now we have 2 years of COVID behind us. We have two international wars going on. We have the Red Sea crisis. Despite all of this, our exports continue to grow both in merchandise and services. We continue to see a lot of demand for Indian products and services. And you'll be amazed at what happened in Sydney yesterday and what we discussed today with the government. Yesterday, we had 1,100 real estate developers of repute come down from India for a 3-day conference in Australia. They have been studying Sydney city for new technologies, emerging construction styles. And there was a 3-day conference which I inaugurated in Sydney. And will you believe it? They are so super excited about the growth opportunity in India. They told me that they expect in the next 30 years to construct twice the number of buildings that all of India has today. So what was constructed in, I don't know, hundreds of years in India until today will be tripled in the next 30 years. Look at the huge opportunity for the entire ecosystem, whether it's steel, cement, furniture, carpets, electricals, electronics, air conditioning. The list just goes on and on. And will you believe what happened when I was talking to the Australian government today? Their biggest challenge is housing and construction. And when I offered them that I can send my realtors to Australia, and I have 1,100 of them in Sydney already doing an international conference, they were super excited. And I've already told the CREDI president to quickly mount a delegation to Australia and get cracking to build in Australia, which will give a big boost to make in India, because our products from India, prefabricated steel structures, slabs, our furniture, our electricals, our electronics, they will all have a huge market for the 1,000,000+ homes that Australia needs to construct. So the future is bright. America will need to reconstruct. Europe will need to reconstruct. They're all 70, 80-year-old infrastructure in these developed nations. This is our time for an outreach to the world. Make in India will support export from India, will support serve from India, will invite innovate in India. It has tremendous potential and multi-dimensional opportunities, as you very rightly pointed out.
Of yours will truly inspire a lot of young Indians to really take that giant leap forward in terms of believing in themselves, believing in India, and believing in the current promise of the government. My final question is that Piyush Goyal has a reputation that every time he goes for a foreign travel, he comes back with a lot of good news in terms of JVs, bilateral agreements. So what we should expect from your trip from Australia?
Well, I think things evolve. I told you about the real estate story. That was something that was like an icing on the cake, most unexpected. But we are discussing with Australia for greater access for our services sector, for greater opportunities for our students who come over here. In fact, I've just met the Premier of South Australia, and he's very keen to come to India to attract more students to come to Australia, and simultaneously to consider starting a university in India to have joint degrees and dual degrees for our students, and also to send Australian students to come down to India and experience India, study and work in India, so that they can be a part of the future India-Australia partnership. Similarly, we are in dialogue for greater market access in Australia for our pharmaceuticals. We do believe there's tremendous potential for the space partnership, and we are working with the government of Australia to have critical mineral joint exploration. I have also announced the opening of 10 offices of Invest India, NICDIC, which sets up these industrial smart cities, ECGC, which provides export credit guarantee, DGFT, which is promoting trade, and we are trying to create, along with CII and FICCI, in a public-private partnership model, offices which will promote investment, trade, technology, and at a later stage, tourism. ITTT is going to be promoted through these offices. I'll open one in Singapore on Sunday. We'll soon open one in Abu Dhabi, Dubai in the UAE, one in Sydney, one in Saudi Arabia, one in Zurich, New York. We have plans for 10 to begin with, and going forward, basis the success of this effort, we'll expand worldwide so that investors across the world will have a single-stop shop where they can get the India experience, where we can handhold their journey to India, whether as investors or as tourists, and we'll make sure that India becomes the preferred destination for the world for investment, trade, technology, and tourism. Thank you, Nikunj.
Well, really appreciate.
There comes a time when your heart calls for you to arise. Plant your feet solid into the ground. Decide your own limits, and then break right through them. Become something more. It's my time to rise.